The Florida Panthers are back-to-back champions, winning the 2025 Stanley Cup, defeating the Oilers 5-1 in Game 6. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the GCL Diesel Oil Stream postgame show. One last time in the 2024-2025 season. Tom Gazzola live on location at Hudson's White Avenue. Hernan Salas back at EST Global HQ. Matt Cassian will be joining us, our game analyst, from his satellite studios. Of course, you can text us, 780-218-9999. You can get into the nasty chat as well. Lots of texts already flying in. They were flying in for the last 10 minutes of the game. Please keep it civil. We know that tonight is heartbreak in oil country, and people can get a little bit emotional, but just keep it civil in the nasty chat. We appreciate that very, very much as the Oilers fall 4-2 in the Stanley Cup Final. GCL Diesel, they've been riding with us all season long, and they are providers of the best diesel engine components around, from turbochargers to injectors, fuel pumps to sensors. They are the critical engine component experts, proud to serve Edmonton and Northern Alberta for over 50 years. 780-218-9999. Get into the conversation. Of course, like I said, nasty chat as well. All right, Hernan Salas. Not the Oilers' night. It was Florida basically after 3 minutes into the game when the Panthers, the Oilers had a good jump on the Panthers in the first 3 minutes, got a chance or two, laid the body a couple of times, and then ultimately it fell apart and Florida took over. Florida gets the first goal, and you kind of had a bad feeling after that. Edmonton couldn't get much going offensively, couldn't get to Sergei Bobrovsky. They finally scored at him late in the game when it didn't matter. It was all for naught. Sam Reinhart, a big 4-goal performance. Matthew Tkachuk also chipping in with a goal tonight. I really thought there'd be more from the Oilers. I'd be honest with you. I thought that they would be able to dictate the play a little bit more. Clearly not the case. Didn't happen outside of those first 3 minutes. It was all Panthers. The Oilers looked nervous. The Oilers looked like they were spent. And anytime they made a mistake, it was Florida taking advantage. Hernan.
Yeah, lots to break down. Lots of bad today for the Edmonton Oilers. And enough with if Pickard was in net, the Oilers win. Did you watch the game? Enough of that. I'm tired of it. We're going to get to it. But, Tom, this is the Oilers start pretty well again. They roll through their lines, and then he goes nuclear right away. Yeah. I just, why so early? It's 0-0. That to me is what's mind-boggling. That's one of the moves that I'm just did you have to go to it so quick?
Right.
Second,
Thank you, Tommy! Thank you, Tommy! Thank you, Tommy!
Thank you, Nasties. You guys are the best. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you, guys. There we go. These are the Nasties that have been here all season long. Nice. I know we're going to get negative. Thank you, guys. You guys heard all their names all year long, and that was a beautiful send-off. They've been fantastic. Thank you guys so much. VR Montenegro, there he is. I know we're about to get into. There's Cal in the park. Thank you, Cal. That was fantastic. All right.
And then you look at the first goal, just a bad pass. Ekholm was not right in this series, Tom. I think that's got to be clear.
Yes, he was hurt.
Good.
He was hurt.
The second goal, sure, Bouchard turns it over in the offensive blue line, but it's a 4-on-4. McDavid goes to the wrong player, goes to Wallman's guy. I like what Kelly Rudy said, though, at I was going to say halftime. In the period, he goes, Stuart Skinner has to make a big save, though. And I agree wholeheartedly. I think there was a stat out there before Game 4 or Game 5, Tommy, where high danger chances, Stu Skinner didn't make a lot of saves where Calvin Pickard did. We can discuss that all offseason. I'm just saying,
sure.
I agree with Kelly Rudy. You needed a big save. You absolutely did, and you didn't get it. But now, again, your top line goes -2 in the first period. Your top pairing was a complete mess. And then the third goal, that one's on Stuart Skinner. I text the group chat. I'm still sitting here wondering what he was doing. I have no idea what Stuart Skinner was thinking in that moment. And I know it's a fast game and all that, but Tommy, can you explain what happened on that third goal? Because I can't.
The way that one went in, Hernan, listen, sure, it bounces off of Reinhart skating in, but the way he played it, like if I were to try to defend him, I would say he was trying to steer it into the corner.
Yes.
He didn't. he didn't.
Yeah.
He played it poor. It just popped off of him, and who did it go to? Went right to Bennett. Bennett banks it in off of Reinhardt.
Sorry.
The way he played that, the way he reacted to the rebound, that whole sequence, Hernan, that's like if you didn't think it was over at that point, then that was when you knew, and I could tell, to me at least, Stu Skinner was already defeated. He was checked out.
No, and that's a great point, because even at 2-0, I was like, hey, the Oilers can score in bunches, even if they take that to third. That goal was the killer. And listen, you kind of were playing the other side, like maybe he's trying to. It's just it looks so casual, and there's no one there but a Florida player, Tom. It was just such a bizarre play. I'm still trying to dissect that one, but all in all, hey, we have to give credit to the other team. That team is an absolute wagon. Their best players outperformed the Oilers' best players. Their bottom six outperformed the Oilers' bottom six. Their defense outperformed the Oilers' defense. And their goaltending outperformed the Oilers' goaltending. They were better in the details of the game and the little things that you need to be successful. Listen, Tom, it was a 4-2 series win. The Oilers won 2 games, but this was a series owned by the Florida Panthers. And if you didn't think so in the first period, they showed a stat. I think the Oilers led for 33 minutes of this series, Tom. I think they broke the record, the Florida Panthers, of the 87 Oilers, and for the amount of time leading in a series. So I'll be honest, I was optimistic. I thought they were going to come out. I thought they started well. I didn't like them going nuclear right away in the 4th, 5th shift. But, Tom, at the end of the day, the better team won. And I'm still a little bit shocked, I'm not going to lie, with that performance by the Edmonton Oilers.
I'm not surprised they went nuclear right away. You do everything and anything you can. You're in desperation mode from the drop of the puck. In theory, do I like it? Yes, because you have to do whatever you can. You have to scratch and claw your way to a win.
I understand that, but when your lines are
you're
going
at the point where you have to do whatever you can.
Yeah, but
the rhythm doesn't matter, Hernan. To me, in this situation, it doesn't matter. You figure out who's going and who's not, and you ride them until you get a win. Clearly, nobody was going enough to even get them a dent in this game.
And I understand going to it because it's desperation. You have to win this game. But I just didn't like it so early. And I didn't like it in the case that when that happens, and we saw it in the other series, but this series, the other players kind of disappeared, Tom. You weren't going to get much from the other lines, right? And then you saw the performance of the top line in the first period, and I was like, oh, it's not the best start for these guys. So listen, we can pick apart everything that happened today.
Oh, yeah. And there's nothing good about tonight's performance.
No, absolutely not.
Good.
So it's a tough one, man. It's an extremely tough one. Too many turnovers today, Tommy. Bouchard didn't look like he did in the other series. Ekholm
looked bad.
He looked too casual out there for the importance of this game. And like I said, there's so many things we can do here, eh? So
we're gonna read text. We're gonna get to as many as we can. Cass is standing by for the breakdown, and I'll go through the scoring summary from tonight's 5-1 loss in Game 6 to the Florida Panthers. Sam Reinhart opened things up at 4:36 from nobody. It was unassisted. It was an absolute grenade from Ekholm to Bouchard. Bouchard turns it over to Reinhart. He goes in, makes a nice move, scores as he's falling down. Matthew Tkachuk would make it 2-0, his 8th of the year from Louis Storinen. And Lundell at 19:13, another last-minute dagger at the end of a period. Those are the worst, and Edmonton gave up way too many of those. In the second period at 17:31, Sam Reinhart, 2nd of the night. That was the play we were talking about, Skinner, where a weak shot comes in. I think that was Barkov who had that one. And Verhaeghe, then Barkov scoops it up, banks it in off Reinhart, 3-zip. At that point in the third period, into the empty net. The Oilers pulled the goalie with 7 minutes left to try to get something going. 26 seconds later, Sam Reinhart scores his 3rd of the night, 10th of the playoffs from Barkov and Verhaeghe. It was over. You knew it. Not that the Oilers had much of a sniff at all anyway. At 13:26, then Reinhart again into the empty net, his 4th of the night, 11th of the postseason from Verhaeghe, and Ekblad at 14:55. Vasily Podkolzin would break Bobrovsky's shutout bid at 15-18, banging home some loose change. His third of the playoffs from Wallman and Brown. Final 5-1 Panthers. Shots on goal tonight, 29-25 in favor of Edmonton. Faceoffs, 52.8% to 47.2 in favor of the Panthers. No power plays for either team tonight. You knew right away they were putting away the whistle. There was coincidentals in the first period, but that was it. Then Evander Kane gets a 10-minute, gets kicked out because he slashed Matthew Tkachuk late in the game. Hits 29-28 in favor of the Oilers. Block shots 17-15 in favor of the Panthers. Giveaways 18-10 in favor of, or Panthers with 18, Edmonton with 10. Takeaways 5 for Florida, 1 for Edmonton. 5-1 is the final. The Oilers lose the Stanley Cup. Third straight Stanley Cup appearance that the Oilers have lost. Still seeking their first Cup title since 1990. They lose this one in 6 games, their 9th appearance in the Stanley Cup Final. All right, let's get to some texts before we welcome in Matt Cassian. Cal in the Park, who was just here, says, hey, Tommy and crew, thanks for a great season, great Cup run. Nasty's turned out in record numbers. The best team won at the end of the day. Oilers as a team weren't good enough. Yes, they miss Hyman, but it wouldn't have been enough. Credit where credit is due. Florida is a very good hockey team. KCF says 2 years in a row, McDavid fails to produce in the final. Zero Edmonton media will call him out. KCF, I don't know, buddy. Like, I'll be honest with you. I talked about it the last couple of days. People have been bringing up, can these guys get the job done? That's going to kind of dog them until they win it. Draisaitl and McDavid. So I don't know what to tell you outside of what do you expect? Like, do you want them to go and dump on these guys after they lose? That's not going to happen. Garbage bag day, maybe some tough questions will be asked, but come on, dude. EA says at the end of the day, the Oilers simply were not on Florida's level, not even close from top to bottom. The Panthers were the better team, better goaltending, stronger defense, deeper forward lines. The fact that Edmonton could not win a single game in regulation says it all. Games 5 and 6 will go down as major blemishes on the legacy of 29 and 97. And I do not want to hear about the officiating or the ice conditions. Florida played a complete game. That is it. If you are relying on the power play to carry you, you are not built to win. As we welcome in our game analyst, Matt Cassian, for the breakdown, brought to you as always by Assassination.
Sorry, I thought my mic was off.
I heard you say assassination. Breakdown brought to you by South Fork Chev. Go see Daniel and his team in the fort. They'll give you $1,000 extra credit on your trade-in. Drive a little, save a lot at South Fork Chev. See dealer for details. www.southforkchev.com. Assassination, as Hernan dropped on you. I don't know, man. Just go ahead. Just break it down. Edmonton loses the Stanley Cup again to the Florida Panthers.
Again, they just could not deal with the pressure of the Florida Panthers, and they never found their groove. If I had to pin it on one thing, I would say their defense just caved. And by defense, I mean team defense as a whole just caved, starting with their defensemen. You mentioned, and lots of people have mentioned Ekholm coming back from injury, still playing hurt, undoubtedly, not 100%.
Yes.
Couldn't get the job done. Bouchard, for as good as he was, and he was great throughout the rest of the playoffs, last couple games couldn't get the job done. Wallman and Klingberg, who up until this series, again, were also great, couldn't get the job done. Darnell Nurse didn't get the job done. Their defense just could not withstand the pressure of the Florida Panthers. And it's almost like they got in panic mode, like early in the series. They kind of seemed like if they would have been able to keep momentum going, if they could have rolled, they would have rolled. But the second they hit that adversity, it's like they used it up, guys. They used up their comebacks early in the playoffs to overcome. So, yeah, it just wasn't good enough. That's the bottom line. They got beat by a team that outplayed them in pretty much every area of the ice. And I guess if I go back and I say, and I know it wasn't like there was lots of penalties today, not lots of penalty killings today, but I think if I was going to point to other things that really impacted them, their inability to kill penalties in this series absolutely crushed them.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushed them. Their lack of ability to kill penalties all year at the end of the day, because it was all year. And then even more so in the playoffs, where last year that was such a strength in the playoffs. Like if they have the penalty killing that they had last season, they win the series, but they did not. And that crushed them. And that's disappointing, guys.
Go ahead, Netzel.
Cass, what did you think of their start? I it's a bad first goal, sure, but again, like I thought in the last 3 games they started pretty well in the first, 2 to 4 shifts. What did you see kind of happen after that first goal, and what did you think of their start tonight?
Their start was okay.
Yeah,
it was okay, but it wasn't great. And it kind of the same thing, like, the second Florida got that first one, it changed again. The game changed again. So they were okay. They had a couple chances, but Florida still as a whole still had way better chances. And if you look at the stats, like high danger chances for that first period, where the shots were and the quality of opportunities, Florida absolutely crushed Edmonton in the first. And so, well, yes, they had a little bit more jump. They didn't really. They were never in control in that hockey game. So it just, another game, guys, where it just wasn't good enough.
Tom,
just wasn't good enough.
Can I ask Cass one more? Just because we discussed it and we kind of saw it differently. Dusty chimes in, says it was a good start, and then they went 97 and 29 together for no reason. Cass, I thought they went to it too quick. I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Like, because Tom does bring a good point. Like, you're all in this game. Like, you have to win it, and you go to your best option. But for you, was it the right call at the time of the game?
Well, I think you're looking at that, and as I said, like, you have the first couple shots of the game, you have the first couple chances, and then you're down. So you're going to try it. Like, those two guys haven't gone nuclear that often this series, a little bit, or I guess when they've been down a couple times they have, but I think they go nuclear in this game because they're looking at this and going, like, we have to get these guys going. We have to get something. Maybe this is our way to overwhelm them. Yeah. And it just becomes too tantalizing for Knoblock not to. So did they do it too early? Maybe, but it's not like they were convincingly winning the gameplay before that. Like, they weren't dominating before that. Like, if they were dominating and everybody was getting chances and they were well in control of that hockey game, then I would say, it's too early. But as it were, they were already down. So hard to say that, guys.
Well, that's Hernan and I talked about it a little bit off the top. That's why I said I understand why he did it. Yeah, you're trying to take the game. Like, in theory, you shouldn't like it. You shouldn't have to go to that and resort to it that quickly. But I understand why. You want a good start. You want the lead. You want to take it, and you're going all out. And he tried, and it failed miserably.
Dusty's in the nasty chat. He says that they went to 97 or 97 and 29 on that shift that led to the first goal. So that was the first time.
Yes.
Yeah, was that. Now,
it blew up in their face.
I thought it was after. I didn't realize that was the first. But you can't really pin Ekholm grenading it on McDavid and Draisaitl on that one. Like, I mean, that's an Ekholm play through and through. So I can't. I don't think you can point at that and say that them going together is a reason they got scored on at that point. But after that, though, Edmonton still just couldn't get anything going, and that juiced up, which we were worried about if Florida scores first. I was like, Florida scores first, this could be over, and it was really like they had too much momentum at that point. The killer instinct was there, and But I hear what you're saying, Dusty, and I hear where people would be upset on that, and I can understand why.
Yeah. I get it, but I also see why Knobloch did it. And Cass, I think you validated that. No, it's not great to go to, and it blew up in their face. But Ekholm throwing a grenade at Bouchard trying to sweep it away. Like, it was a calamity of errors, compounding errors, Cass. It falls under that category. Let's move on to some more text here. Let's go to West End Rob, who says, boys, It sucks, but still hell of a run. Do the Oilers need a drastic move like Florida did, trading Huberdeau and Weegar? Would you deal Bouchard to get 2 solid defensive pieces and Skinner plus another goalie? I don't blame Stu, but most Oilers fans will. That's from West End Rob. And I know the next season chatter basically started in the second period when the Oilers went down a bunch of goals. Can we even go there right now, or do you want to wait?
Oh, it might be it might be wise to wait, guys.
Yeah,
it's not a long off season, so we'll still have time to cram this stuff in, guys. I don't know if we need to go there today.
We'll take trade requests for Bouchard starting next week.
Yes.
Yeah. That works.
Yeah, pretty much.
Trust me. Trust me. We're gonna decipher and dissect this for the next 2 months before training camp starts, which is ridiculous that it's going to start in 2.5, 3 months here. So another short summer in oil country, and it didn't come with a good result at the end of the last season. So let's go to Chantel in Calgary. He says, extremely disappointing that last several games by the Oilers what they said, Florida was the better team this year. Last year, unfortunately, I feel Oilers were the better team and still lost. That hurts, no other way to put it. With that said, it's far better to be in the final 2 years in a row than not. What a ride again. Great work, Tommy and the crew. You guys do great work. Enjoy a well-deserved summer off from hockey. Thank you very much, Chantal. We appreciate that very much. Go to Brock B. Says, Tommy, this was tough to watch. Florida dictated the way these games were played. So much to discuss, but my biggest question is, what happened to the depth lines? I understand Florida's D is solid, but I can't fathom where the offense went from the bottom 6. There wasn't a single line that was quote-unquote going the last 3 games. In hindsight, that Marchand OT goal was the turning point. Oilers looked depleted from that point on. Old, injured, and out of gas. That's from Brock B. Guys, you want to jump in on what Brock B had to say there?
Yeah, I mean, Tom, we talked about it off the hop. A lot of players that were really good in the first 3 rounds kind of tailed off here. You know, you look at Arvidsson and Kapanen in and out of the lineup, didn't do much. Connor Brown, for me, who was having an excellent playoffs. Adam Enrique, it didn't get much from him. Janmark completely disappeared. Tough, man, tough, because you need them, right? And you need these guys, and that's why the Oilers had so much success in the first 3 rounds, because you got depth. You got everybody chipping in, and then, the McDavid and Draisaitl are going to take a lot of heat, guys, and that comes with the territory of being the 2 stars on the team. But I think a lot of guys will be looking in the mirror that they probably could have brought more to this series for sure.
Yeah, and let's not forget, too, Zach Hyman, not in the lineup. And that really, really hurts their depth. Like, if you think configuration of the top 6, if you think matchups against the Florida Panthers and that physicality, that forechecking, like hitting you every second, every time you got the puck, no time and space, like that was what Zach Hyman was bringing. That's what he was bringing in the playoffs. So that one is a huge, huge loss. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins playing hurt for half the series. That's also a huge part of it the last couple of games where he wasn't able to have any kind of an impact, and he had been very, very good for a significant portion of the playoffs too. So there's guys that are going to be looking at themselves as they should and examining their play up and down the lineup. And then there's just, some of the stuff you can't control, like Ekholm trying to come back from injury, Hyman being hurt, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins being hurt as well. Who would you guys say, outside of McDavid, Draisaitl, can't touch the goaltending? So let's leave the goaltending. Let's leave anyone that's hurt, and let's leave McDavid and Draisaitl. Who would you say was the biggest disappointment? Who is the biggest, can I go first? Today, who's the biggest disappointment? Yeah, give it to me.
Evander Kane. I think Evander Kane. I have a lot of respect for the type of player Evander Kane is when he wants to be and can be and has been at times. Did so in the first couple of rounds in the playoffs. I do think, and I'm not saying they lost because of, the 2 penalties he took in the first period of Game 3. I'm not going to say that. But that's a guy who's supposed to be your second layer of offense. He's supposed to be your big boy, intimidator, power forward. And those penalties really limited him and handicapped his team and I think changed the way he played. And he became a non-factor. I think it might be an obvious one, but I think Evander Kane. I think there's going to be people say Henrique and Brown and stuff, and those are valid too. But to me, number one would be Evander Kane. What do you guys think?
I like that one, Tommy. You're getting a lot of Kane in the nasty chat. I gotta, just to be different, I gotta look at the back end. Ekholm for me, man. Everybody was pretty happy for him coming back. He's the Oilers' best defenseman, but man, you can tell he's not 100%. He's not even close to the player we're used to seeing. He struggled mightily in this series with the pressure, with the forward check. And it's tough to see because he wants to be out there. He gives us his all. A lot of miles on that body, guys, and it sucks to see him struggle that bad and not win again. But I gotta say, Mattias Ekholm is the guy that most disappointed with in this finals.
Cass, it was your question, but you rounded out.
Yeah. I'll go with 2. I'll give a 4 and a D on the forward group. I'm torn on this one. I think maybe a more fair one would be to go with Adam Henrique, who just really was a non-factor.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything on the positive side. Now, also maybe not a ton of stuff negative, but didn't have any kind of a difference maker on the offensive side. Secondary to that, I would also say Arvidsson. Although but that's just looking at what you're paying him and what he didn't do, which was anything in the Cup Final. And then on D, I got to go with Darnell Nurse. And that pains me to say it because he played so well for the year and he played so well through the playoffs, but then he just couldn't find his stride this series. Yeah. He couldn't find his stride this series. And I don't think it was just him. And I would say Ekholm, but I have sympathy in that he's hurt. He's half an Ekholm right now. Yeah. And so I'm not disappointed in a guy that's that injured trying to play through it. But I'm a little disappointed because Darnell had just been so good through the playoffs and then just couldn't find that one extra round of one extra gear for that. And for all the people, because everyone's ripping me, why can't you say the goaltenders? Because I don't think the goaltenders were the biggest issue in this. And so I eliminated them from my question.
Cass, can I ask you something on Nurse? He was so good during the regular season. He played with everybody. He played with every single guy that they could put on the right side. Why do you think when it transitioned into the playoffs, because he struggled with Bush, he struggled with Kulak, like his best partner was Stetcher, who wasn't in the lineup for the last 2 games. Why do you think that changed? Is it just the pace, the intensity of playoff hockey? Like why such a drastic change for Darnell Nurse in the playoffs, especially in this finals?
I don't know. And that's why I would say that's where it's disappointing. Right? Because I don't know. Like I would have thought he would thrive in a series that's a physical series where you need him to be on edge, need him to be dealing with guys in his grill and hitting him and bumping him and trying to force you to make plays. And he's so good when he's not just at that aggressive pace, but at that, like he's good when he's physically engaged. And I thought Florida would drag him into that a little bit. And I don't know if it's the pressure of the moment. I don't know if it's Ekholm coming back and maybe kind of in his mind just being like, okay, well, it's not as much on me anymore. I got support. Yeah. I don't know if that was it. Maybe something mentally there with that. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question, a hard question.
I just want to chime in here. There's a couple of nasty chats that I think make a good point, and they all came in a bit of a cluster, so I'm going to read them out here. Brian Pearson says, dump the over 30-year-old guys. Brian, I'm not I don't disagree with you. I think they're going to have to get younger and quicker and find a way to do that because, they weren't the faster team in the Stanley Cup Final. And that was an issue. And then Fighting Sue Hockey says, I want all the old farts gone. Okay, here's the Ekholm stuff that I wanted to get to. I understand where those people are coming from, and I don't really disagree with them. Emma Terry says Ekholm will be injured till Christmas. Emma Terry, I have that same concern from what I've been told about his injury. Oh, wow. Hersey says, have we seen the best of Ekholm? And some stranger says prime Ekholm has expired. Guys, he's 35 years old.
Yeah.
It started, the wear and tear did show this season. He wasn't as good as he was last year or when he came to the team. I think that is a legitimate concern, and you're going to have to start to begin the process of finding his replacement. And unfortunately, I don't think at this point it's Darnell Nurse who's approaching 30 very quickly here.
Yeah. Well, it's not just his replacement. It's his replacement and.
Yeah.
Right? It's his replacement and.
Yeah.
Now, Wallman stepped in and did some okay things, but Wallman's not his replacement either. And so, and this is getting ahead of ourselves. No, we're going to talk about the offseason. But no, I know. It's a legitimate thing to be concerned about, right? Very legitimate is, what does this decor look like? And how can we get younger and faster? And oh Lord, here we go. Now it's going to carry my brain into the whole Broberg in Holloway thing, and oh boy,
I know, and that started like
spiraling
45 minutes ago in the chat. I saw it even before we went to air. I know, and it's hard to we're putting parameters around how we talk about next season. They just lost the cup minutes ago, for crying out loud. It is hard to not fall into that temptation. To discuss it.
Really, really hard not to. Really hard not to. But yeah, it's depending on what that does look like for Ekholm, that could be some interesting times ahead, gentlemen, with what the Oilers management is going to have to do from a decision standpoint.
Boys, I'll give you these stats real quick here. So yeah, the Panthers led in the Stanley Cup Finals for 255 minutes and 49 seconds. The Oilers led for 33 minutes and 51 seconds. Before Game 3, Draisaitl had a streak of 88 playoff games with at least one shot attempt. In the last 4 games, he twice had 0 shot attempts.
Yep. There you go.
Are you surprised they weren't able to grab one of these games, especially tonight, guys? I really, really thought they would. I had faith in them doing it. I believe I've watched these kids since they're not kids, they're men, for crying out loud. I've watched them since they were kids, and I've seen them do spectacular, amazing things in the last decade. And I really thought that they had learned enough of the lesson on how to win, going through losing, that they could find a way to just control a game or two and empty the tank like we were talking about. I am surprised. I'm curious how surprised you guys are that McDavid and Draisaitl weren't able to just throw this team on their back and force a Game 7.
Well, you need more than just those two guys. You could have the best players in the world. That's still more guys on the ice, right? You still have to get them the puck. You still have to find a way to score. You still have to find a way to create open ice for them. There's just more to that. Am I surprised, though, at the same time? Yes. Particularly the last 2 games tonight and Game 5 as well, where if there's a statement game from this series, I'm going to Game 5.
Yeah.
Where there was just nothing.
Yeah.
Even more so from today. There was just nothing. There was nothing. There was no response, no pushback, no battle, no urgency, no desperation, or not to say they didn't feel that, but we couldn't see it. We couldn't feel it. Right? It didn't come across in the way that they played. And that to me is it. I don't know.
That Game 5 was the killer, man. It was
the killer.
And Cass, we put a lot on 97 and 20, and they need help. You look on the other side, Barkov, production-wise, didn't do much, but he was excellent defending.
Yep.
I mean, you got a hell of a series from Marchand, and not only him, that third line, guys.
Their line was toasty. Yep.
That line is outstanding. Just contributions from a lot of different guys, right? So, of course, Connor and Leon have to lead the way, but they also need some assistance there. And it's interesting, though, seeing that Draisaitl's, he wasn't shooting as much in the final 3 games, guys. That kind of surprises me a bit. People are going to bring up, was he injured? Was he 100%?
I just think his puck touches weren't even good. The play, sadly, died on his stick a lot of times in the offensive zone. That's how I saw Draisaitl the last couple of games.
But I think that's because, and we'll go back to talking about pregame, they did not do a good enough job generating any kind of speed. So you had good gaps by Florida. you didn't have the space in the offensive zone that you typically have. And the second a team is set coming back, they were able to defend. Like, they could defend all the way down the ice. It wasn't like a scramble defense. They could defend all the way down the ice. And I think that really impacted them. It impacted Draisaitl and his puck touches too, because then, if you're not feeling like you're getting any kind of momentum, if you're not feeling like you're able to attack and generate and do all that, then you kind of get stuck, or at least that seems to me where they were. Like, they just got stuck.
All right, Cass, one last time. Final thoughts from you on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream postgame show.
Well, fellas, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. To all the nasties, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all for the most part being extremely respectful and having fun, even if you're being mean with your messages in. But I do enjoy them and enjoy you guys. It's been a blast. Disappointing it ended this way.
Yeah.
Disappointed for us, for the show, for the fans of the city and people worldwide that just, the team and winning, and it just means a lot to them. And so there's a lot of broken hearts and sad people, and that makes me sad. It's just too bad, but appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Think you are wonderful, as well as everyone else. I know Reid's riding shotgun here, and we'll be up shortly, but to all the EST crew, you guys are awesome, and just appreciate you so much, and thank you for being along here for the ride.
It's beautifully said, as always. Great work all year long. I think this is year 7 or 8 for the two of us, and we missed Nanso for a year or two, and it's good to have the Wolfpack back together. So it's so good this season. I look forward to watching and listening and being part of Two Guys and a Goalie, filling in whenever Dusty's away or whenever someone's away. Tremendous show on our station. Great work as always, my friend. I look forward to seeing you in person next time.
Absolutely, fellas. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Cass. See you, buddy.
Thanks, Hernan.
There is the fantastic Matt Cassian for the last time on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream post-game show this season, our game analyst with the breakdown, brought to you by South Fort Chev. And unfortunately, we're talking about an Oilers loss in the Stanley Cup Final again, which is too bad, and Cass summed it up really nicely. Feel bad for friends, family who are big fans of the team and are going through a big-time disappointment tonight. All right, keep those texts coming in, 780-218-9999. You heard Cass say it, that Reid is standing by for Reid's Reid. It's Gazzola, live on location, Hudson's White Avenue. We had a great time here. Big thank you to the Nasties. They're still hanging out on the patio. Absolutely tremendous. Hernan back at EST Global HQ. Reid coming at us from his satellite studio. I'm going to read a couple of texts, and then I'll get the liner, and we'll get Riedrich in here. Hontorio Momes texting in says, if you don't know who your starter is in the Stanley Cup Final, you don't have one this summer. They need to get a legitimate starter so there's no questions at any cost. I feel like they got veteran players because they thought they would make less mistakes in the playoffs. Instead, I feel like they made more mistakes this year, and they were slower. That was a Jeff Jackson doing to age the group forward, and it failed. That text from Hontorio Momes. Let's go to Josh from K-Town, who says McDavid and Draisaitl can get angry all they want. People criticizing their defensive game, but tonight they set the tone for an absolutely abysmal game. These are two superstars who have spoken about team defense over and over again, but would rather cheat for offense than play shutdown D. On a positive note, as long as you have them, the West runs through Edmonton. See you in October. Thank you, Josh from K-Town. Nash in Whitecourt says, I just want to say thanks for the ride, guys. It was really fun while it lasted, but I need a break for a while. See you soon. Love you all. Nash in Whitecourt, well said. Thank you for being with us for the entire ride. It's been a long year, and unfortunately, it ends with heartbreak. All right, let's get Reid Wilkins in here for Reid's Reid, brought to you by Edmonton Garrison Memorial Golf Club and Curling Club. Fall-in golfers, Edmonton Garrison Memorial Golf Club is open to the public, and memberships are still available. Join the ranks today and experience top-tier golf with a proud military tradition. For more info, visit egmgolf.com to enlist. I was looking at some pictures and videos on Instagram of Garrison. It looks absolutely fantastic. and Matt and the crew doing great work out there. As we welcome in the one and only Reid Wilkins from the Reid Wilkins Show, Monday to Friday, 3 to 6, right here on EST with Jay Milne, hashtag Glue Crew, and of course, Ice Cube. All right, Reid, Rick, you've been standing there waiting patiently. Appreciate it. Just give us your take on how everything went down tonight and then the series as a whole.
Yeah, well, if you want me to start with tonight's game, I mean, same old story,
Yes.
right? I mean, the Oilers fell behind, and Florida's just too hungry, too detailed, too organized. You know, the Oilers actually did some good things in the first period, but they couldn't score. And then just as we see with this team, self-inflicted wounds, right? I mean, Ekholm with the rare bad pass to Bouchard, who – could have he played that better? Maybe, but also Reinhart's feeling it. Like the shot he made when I and probably everybody else watching thought he was going to try to drag it across, like the one-touch shot racing in was an incredible play. And then look, I've heard some criticism of McDavid tonight, and I said on the hangout this morning, and I mean it, like, this isn't a legacy game. This isn't a legacy series. This doesn't write off Connor McDavid's career. We'll see what happens in the years to come. I don't like putting the cap on somebody when they're still in progress. But Connor McDavid made a horrific mistake on the second goal. I mean, the Oilers turned it over in the neutral zone. It was a 2-on-2. Draisaitl was coming back, and you could see Draisaitl stop and be like, oh, there's two defensemen back. I'm going to pick somebody else up. And he picked somebody else up. And then the next guys back into the zone were McDavid and Tkachuk.
Yep.
And McDavid left Tkachuk to go to the puck carrier, who was already being marked by an Oilers defender. Tkachuk is McDavid's man, wide open, walks in and shoots it past the screen, Stuart Skinner. That is a horrific mistake from the captain of your team in that situation, quite frankly. It's not why they lost the series. Clearly, he played great to get the Oilers this far, but that's a very key moment in which he didn't execute defensively, which is disappointing, considering he slaps any reporter who asks them about the quality of their defending. He blew it in that situation. But then, I mean, look, Florida's better. Florida is the better team. They're the best team in the NHL. They wore everybody down that they played or responded when they were behind, like they were against the Leafs. I mean, if you look at a lot of their games, they won some close ones. They won some ones going away as well. Like they were pretty dominant. I don't think the Oilers played great, but I think a lot in this series too is the Panthers made them look bad. Sorry, I'm kind of drifting between thoughts here because I do have some overall thoughts.
Continue.
I do have some overall thoughts on the series. The third goal, yeah, that's a bad play by Skinner. Like you can't catch it. You can't take it off your shoulder and let it drop in the slot. And sure, Florida got a bounce, but they got a bounce because Skinner let that puck loose and they got a guy going to the net. And then, the third period was, I guess Florida actually didn't have a lot of shots on goal until they started scoring empty netters. But, I mean, they were just so hungry to put it away. The series as a whole, Tom, let's face it, the last 4 games were not close. Give the Oilers the credit for a miracle comeback. For an excellent second period and a pretty good third in game 4. And then they got a bounce in overtime. Like Florida kicked their ass for basically 3 2/3 games out of the last 4. It wasn't competitive. Edmonton didn't threaten. Edmonton didn't have the lead, and except for the brief time they had it after the Wallman goal. And as I was watching this series, like most people listening, I didn't play in the NHL. We might have a few ex-NHLers or WHLers or high-level guys listening. But I'm guessing most people listening didn't play in the NHL, but they probably played minor hockey or played some sort of a minor sport where there's a point in your life where you're 4, 5, 6, 7 years old and you hit the ice or the field or the court for the first time. And one of the first things you learn is play your position. You are going to be a left winger. You go from here to here. You're going to be a point guard. You dribble and you do this and you defend this guy. You're a wide, whatever. The Florida Panthers played outstanding positional hockey. There was rarely a gap for the Oilers. There was rarely a Panther player out of position. They always had support. We've talked about this a ton, how, the forecheck seems to come in just a blanket. Mm-hmm. And if the first guy doesn't free up the puck, he does enough that the second guy can go in there and create pressure. And then you look how they defended guys back, taking away the center of the ice. And I think we certainly saw tonight, even though the Oilers were out shooting the Panthers for most of the evening and did have the puck in the Panthers' end, it was never getting to the net. And that's another thing. First of all, Sergei Bobrovsky's a great goalie. I mean, clearly the Panthers had better goaltending in the series.
Yes.
He made the saves he needed to make, and he was also rarely under duress. You know, he was protected when he needed to make a save. He was rarely screened, and he rarely had to face a rebound. That was difficult. So a credit to him for making the stops, and then a credit to how the Panthers defended, and I guess a discredit to the Oilers that they didn't have the determination or the gumption or the game plan to get to the net. So those two things there are kind of my keys to the series. I mean, Florida's the best team in the NHL. They are. I know this is painful for Oilers fans, and the Oilers are very, very good. I hope people aren't writing off what they did this year and all the incredible wins that they had and some comebacks.
I'm glad you said that. I think people need a reminder that they're very good.
Yeah, the Oilers are an excellent team themselves. I mean, they made the Dallas Stars look quite inferior, you know. But the Panthers were rolling. They made key additions like Jones and Marchand. They're the best team in the league.
Well said, Riedrich. Some of your texts, 780-218-9999. Chris Sadaway says 3 goals in the last 2 games. Get a clue, everyone. That's it. That's the text. RBM says, this really sucks, boys. As I said the other day, going back-to-back to the final and losing is pretty gut-wrenching. Personally, I don't want another run to the final next year. It's too much stress that followed up to the same result, except this time there was absolutely zero doubt. Plus, I want a stress-free April, May, June, and summer next year. Let's be honest, LOL. I'm really gutted for Connor. Leon, too, but Connor has given everything in his career to the Oilers so far. Brutal. Peace out, Cass and crew. Great job this year. Always great takes and great analysis. Thanks, RBM. Cass appreciates that, too. CJ in Chicago says, hey, Tommy, not the outcome anyone hoped for, but that's why they play the game, and we as fans watch. Thanks for another great ride through the playoffs, especially for us fans that live outside of Edmonton and use EST to connect with us back to home. They'll be better for this for the last time this season. Go Oil, CJ in Chicago. Thank you as always, CJ. Great to meet you in person when you were here last month. Liquid Beaver says, hey, boys, thanks for all the hard work, coverage of the team we all love. You guys are truly the best. See you all at the EST Golf Tourney. Thank you, Liquid Beaver. Tango says 14 other teams would have liked to make it as far as the Oilers. Go Oilers. Nicely done, Tango. Appreciate the text. Keep those coming in. 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat as well. Rick, do you want to hear from Connor McDavid, and then we can give some reaction and some more thoughts?
Yeah, definitely, Tom. Thanks.
All right, we're going to go inside the Oilers locker room after they lose 5-1 in Game 6 and lose the Stanley Cup to the Florida Panthers for a second consecutive spring. Here we go, Connor McDavid.
Take us through what you think happened tonight. Why you guys won a little bit?
I lost to a really good team. Nobody quit. Nobody threw the towel in. They're a heck of a team. You know, the Stanley Cup champions back-to-back for a reason.
What's the difference in the series?
I mean, obviously their forecheck was great. They tilted the rink. They were able to kind of stay on top of us all over the place. Never really able to generate any momentum up the ice. You know, we kept trying the same thing over and over again, just banging our heads against the wall. So credit to them. They played well.
You guys played a pretty good first period, 2 mistakes and stuff in the back of the net. I guess is that the way you kind of play mistake?
Yeah, we kept on saying we want to try to win a 2-1 game. Never found a way to do that, obviously. They got great players. You know, how many guys had 20-plus points in their postseason? You know, they're as deep as it comes. Yeah, 2 mistakes. You know, you're right. I thought we played a pretty good period, 2 mistakes, and chasing again.
Connor, you came into the playoffs with a lot of confidence and belief in this group. What's the takeaway here with the group and how far you did?
Still a lot of confidence and belief, you know. I don't think people thought we were going to make it this far. You know, we obviously believed. Came up just a bit short again.
That group is different. What do you remember about this group?
Just maybe came together at the right time, I would say. You know, a lot of difficult circumstances coming down the stretch, and injuries, and guys fighting through things, and guys just coming. You know, we just found a way to get here. You know, obviously didn't find a way to get enough, but credit to a lot of guys.
Look at the core of this team. You're feeling you got to get a few more kicks of this can here. The core of the guys you have on this list.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sure.
The game you had was strong enough to go through the West pretty well, right? You beat good teams out there, you beat them in that game. When it comes up against Florida and you couldn't solve Florida. You know, what should we think about a Florida team that's that much better than the opponents you face game?
Yeah, they're a really good team. I said it many times already. Very deserving. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. They were really good. No? Yeah, you don't think?
Have you seen anything specific from your teammates after the game?
Nothing to say. Nothing to say, really. You know, obviously everyone's disappointed.
All right, that was Connor McDavid. Just give me a sec, Grumpy Cat. Quote, nobody quit. Heck of a team. Forecheck was great. Couldn't generate any momentum going up ice. Those are issues. Those are issues. So just some of the things that stood out to me. Reid, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly he said that about their forecheck, which we knew could be a problem coming into the series, and it was one of the major problems. You know, and he said that we kept trying the same thing over and over again, and we kept banging our heads against the wall. I don't think he meant it this way in that moment, but I do think we have to talk about the coaching in this series. And, you know, usually I would say, you know, pump the brakes on criticizing a coach who has only been to the Stanley Cup Final as a head coach. But I do think that Paul Maurice and his staff did a better job against the Oilers than Kris Knoblauch and his staff did against the Panthers. Now, maybe they had the better roster to begin with, so that's a factor. But, you know, I referenced this on my show earlier today that texting with a couple people after Game 4, they said there were no adjustments from the Oilers in terms of trying to get across the red line, get into the offensive zone, and do something on the forecheck. And we didn't see that again tonight. Now, would have it made a difference? Maybe not, because Florida was so dialed in. And look, Tom, I'm going to be a little soap opera here. Is Kris Knoblauch Stan Bowman's first choice as the head coach? We're probably going to get that answer in the next 7 to 14 days. Okay, I'm just gonna plant that seed.
Okay,
and I want you to consider a couple of experienced coaches who are out there who usually take their teams fairly deep or do well in the playoffs that currently aren't employed. One of them just coached against the Oilers in the Western Conference Final. I'm just going to say that at the top levels of the organization, they have to break absolutely everything down, and that is also going to be the head coach, who I think has done a great job, but I also think they have to say, we're trying to win a Stanley Cup, you know, likely before Connor and Leon are 35. So in the next 6 years, let's say, 6 or 7 years, it's probably when you need this to happen. So they're going to have to make, besides fixing some other parts of the roster that I think were dominated in this series, I think they're going to have to fairly evaluate their head coach as well.
I have no ties to Kris Knoblauch. I don't talk to him. I don't pretend that I got him hired or anything like that. I will just say this. I think his track record speaks for itself. He's now 29-18 in the playoffs. His regular season record is impeccable. He's gotten this team to Game 7 of a Cup Final and Game 6 of a Cup Final. He has not been able to pick a single one of his coaches on his staff. He's been forced to have Paul Coffey on his bench. Paul Coffey's main role is to be Jeff Jackson's boss. He is the direct guy underneath Daryl Cates, and now he's on the bench. And I think Kris Knoblauch has done a tremendous job dealing with that dilemma. Let's call it that. Glenn Gulutzan is Connor and Leon's guy. You want to keep them happy, you keep Glenn Gulutzan around. And then they have Mark Stewart, who is budding and rising assistant coach, who they finally gave more responsibility last year. They gave him the penalty kill. Now the penalty kill this year sucked. It let them down in a lot of ways. It didn't have any solutions. It had like one good stretch all year long. So I understand, and I'm not going to push back against that seed and dig it out of the dirt and say, get out of here. I'm not going to do that. But I'll just say this. With what Kris Knoblauch has had to deal with, he's done a hell of a job. And I don't know him that well. I don't befriend coaches. I think he's done a great job. So I understand why people were saying that.
I want to clarify that I think he's done a great job as well. But I think if you and I are in the positions of Jackson and Bowman, we have to evaluate everybody who we are superior to. And I think you have to say, in this final, did our coach do everything he could have or push the right buttons at the right time to win us a Stanley Cup while we have both Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on the roster? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, shut up, Reid. It's Bowman and Jackson are more of the reason, but they're superior to Kris Knoblauch. So they're going to have that discussion. I do think Knobloch's done a good job. I think he's done a great job with the spirit of the team and managing different personalities and knowing when a player is ready to go and when he isn't. But I also didn't like him. I know you were talking about earlier. I didn't like him going nuclear after the first goal. Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do that when it's 1-0 and the team actually wasn't playing that bad, then just start the game that way.
Yeah.
You know, like that. I didn't know why he did that. And then, you know, assuming Nuge is not as close to 100% as you like, then you're saying, okay, Nuge, you lead a line with Kasperi Kapanen, who has had some incredible moments in the playoffs, and also still looked like a waiver wire pickup at times. Like there was a huge variance in his play. And also say, okay, Nuge, you center Evander Kane, who seemed more intent on injuring Matthew Tkachuk in this series than actually playing hockey, and who had one goal and was not the presence he was in other series. So I think you really neutered the second line by going nuclear as early as he did in this game.
And I'm not, I said I understand why he went nuclear, because he just went desperation mode. And I think he saw that this group wasn't going to get it done the way it was set up lines-wise. I don't love it, but I understand why he did it. So I get it. All right, let's get to some texts. It is Reid's Read, brought to you by Edmonton Garrison Memorial Golf and Curling Club, 780-218-9999. Get to the nasty chat as well. A lot of you have. We've got a lot of people watching, a lot of people listening. The Oilers fall in the Stanley Cup Final, 4-2, lose 5-1 tonight to the Panthers. Byron texting says, hey, boys, such a hard series. Tough to watch this last game. It was a hell of a run. Still have to be proud of this team. Could be some big changes next year. Love the show. Listening in from Winnipeg. It's great to meet you, Tom. When the wife and I drove in for the first round, we will keep tuning in. Byron out of Winnipeg. Byron, very nice to meet you. Thank you so much. We appreciate that very, very much. Let's go to El Presidente. Says, how could you fire a head coach who's only been to the Stanley Cup Final in a year and a half of coaching twice? Holy smokes. It's not coaching that caused them to lose. It was health. It was the referees. It was being outplayed by the Florida Panthers. Point blank, could there have been some adjustments made? Yes, 100%. There could have been, but it's pretty tough to fire a guy who made it to the 2 Stanley Cup Finals in a year and a half of coaching.
And I wouldn't. I want to clarify this. I wouldn't fire him. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm suggesting I would love to know what Stan Bowman and Jeff Jackson say to each other behind closed doors. Because Stan Bowman inherited this coach that Jeff Jackson handpicked. Jeff Jackson could not get rid of Jay Woodcroft fast enough.
Yes.
So this is all I'm saying, everybody. Behind the scenes, this is Stan Bowman thinking to himself or saying to other influential people within the organization, for crying out loud, you guys. I had Joel Quenneville, one of the best, most established coaches in the league, coaching my Chicago teams. And you're asking me to trust a guy I don't know anything about who's never coached in the NHL before. I'm just wondering if those conversations happen. And if they will happen, and if they do, who's going to win that argument?
Well, then that creates a tete-a-tete, as Joaquin likes to say, between Jeff Jackson and Stan Bowman. And when Stan was brought in, I was told, and this is from people within the hockey ops department, numerous, that said, treat it as they're a tandem. If you need to get a hold of one guy, make sure the other guy's CC'd on the email. Vice versa. They're working hand in hand with one another. One guy's the executive or the CEO of hockey operations. The other guy's president of hockey ops and GM. Like, if there's a disagreement,
situation.
And I think it speaks to how front offices are evolving in hockey. You're seeing a lot of the teams have like 5 assistant GMs now. When the hell did that start happening? It's very bizarre.
And look, not to maybe dive into this too much, but it's a weird situation because Jeff Jackson was parachuted in above Ken Holland.
Yep.
Would have probably had a big hand in. Maybe Holland agreed they wanted to fire Woody at the time. I don't know if Ken Holland was thinking about Knoblock as the head coach. So that's more of a Jackson decision.
Yes.
Holland retires, as we thought he was going to before he went to LA. Bowman comes in after most of the roster and the coach have already been picked for this season. Now, he did make some moves during the year, waiver claims, trades. But again, I wonder, are they of one mind? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. Is Bowman thrilled about reporting to somebody? I don't. Well, he took the job, so I guess he's living with it. I don't know.
He has to. And then you got to factor in the owner. The owner likes to get his fingers in there.
Right.
So, I don't know. I honestly, I completely understand what you're saying. I just think you can't gas a guy who took you to the Cup Final.
No, and I don't think they should either.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how this is going to be evaluated by those two guys and if they see eye to eye on it. That's all. So I'm just asking.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's totally fair. Reid, Nanso, do you have anything that you want to hop in with?
I was just going to chime in and say, still waiting for more postgame. Might be tough tonight, boys. Connor was the only one up so far, so I'll continue to see if we can get coach or someone else. And I'll keep you guys posted here. Keep slamming that thumbs up. Keep the messages coming. Keep it clean, or you're going to get banned. And 780-218-9999. Reid, another tough one in 6 this time, 7 last year. How do you compare the two? Last year it was an interesting series. It went down 3-0. They fought back. There was a couple blowouts in there, a close game in Game 7. This year, back and forth the first 2 games, and I think we've all said it, and I think, Reid, you're kind of leading the charge. Like, they dominated from Game 3 on. They got lucky in that Game 4. Not lucky, but, it was a huge comeback. What are the differences for you that you're seeing from the 2 Stanley Cup losses?
Yeah, that's a good question, Hernan, because I was thinking about that, what I was going to say about that as the game was winding down. And on one hand, I thought to myself, like, why compare them? There were different journeys. Even though the rosters are similar, they're different. It's painful for Oilers fans. I didn't watch a lot of the Florida postgame stuff, but I saw Reinhart saying when we won last year, we didn't think about winning again. So I can't think about a dynasty or anything like that. It's crazy, but the Panthers are better than they were last year. I mean, I thought the Oilers were going to have a better shot at it this year. It looks like they had a better shot at it last year. And maybe if they'd been able to solve Bobrovsky in Game 1 or 2, they would have won that series in 6. I think that I don't know, Hernan. It's hard to compare. I know it's so disappointing for people both ways. I mean, 3 of these games were epic overtime games, and then the other 3 were wipeouts. I think here's the thing. Big picture, you have to hand it to Florida for saying we're the champions and we still have to get better. I think the Oilers tried to get better, and in some ways they did get better. I mean, look, they beat Vegas and Dallas in 5. That wasn't an accident. Yeah. Once they took over against LA, they won 4 in a row, a team that was specifically built to beat the Oilers. They brushed them aside once they got rolling. But the concerning thing for me about the Oilers is, again, as we've said several times after recent years, they still don't have wingers for Draisaitl. It was supposed to be Arvidsson and Skinner and maybe Kane when he got healthy. Well, Arvidsson and Skinner were in and out of the lineup during the playoffs with mixed reviews. I mean, Skinner only played 4 games. So now looking ahead, I guess the reaction here's what I'm going to say the difference is then, Hernan. I'm going to go a little bit on a tangent. The difference is how the Oilers are going to have to react to this. The Oilers reacted last year by bringing most of the team back, right? Henrique, Brown, even Stetcher, Janmark, guys like that, Pickard, and then signing Arvidsson and Skinner. I think they're going to have to react this year with more of not an overhaul attitude, but more of some serious tweaks attitude. Who couldn't do it in this series? Because the goal is not to make the playoffs anymore. Quite frankly, even where they finish doesn't matter, because if you put it together in the playoffs, they show they can win.
Good point.
You got to get in, and then do you have a team that can win the Stanley Cup Final? Now, obviously, some of those tweaks can happen during the season and at the trade deadline, but are they fast enough? Are they young enough? And again, are they mean enough? They're bullies against most teams in the Western Conference. They were not the bullies in this series against the Florida Panthers. So now, and this is the hardest step of the journey, is the final step. If you shoot 115 in golf and you want to break 100, you'll do it within 2 months if you golf regularly. Good luck breaking 90. You'll be 92, 93, 91, 95. That's where the Oilers are. That final step. I know I'm talking about 20 handicap.
I thought you were going to say they're trying to break 70 here.
Or break 70 or whatever. This is that final step. So now what are the key decisions that you strengthen yourself for the final 2 steps of the mountaintop?
Is it fair to say, Reid, that maybe we're talking about bigger moves? Because like you said, last year was a lot bringing the guys back. They had that awesome day on July 1st and signing Skinner and Arvidsson. Are you looking?
Everybody loved that day.
Yeah. Are you looking at maybe something bigger than what they did last offseason? Is that where you're kind of going here to turn the tide here?
Well, I think you're going to have to decide who you're going to part ways with, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, can you trade Kane? Do they have any buyout slots?
They're going to try.
They're going to try.
Yeah.
And then even on the blue line, I think Wallman can be good. He's a little more of a hothead than I thought, quite frankly. I think he needs to channel it a little bit. But that
kind of like that though.
But that Klingberg spot, the Oilers D it's a good D core. Don't get me wrong. But it wasn't as good as Florida's. And look at that third pairing. Schmidt Kulikov is better than Wallman Klingberg. Right? Because once Klingberg got... What's that?
No, I was just going to chime in with Schmidt Kulikov. Those guys are scraps. They've been suitcases the last few years, and they made it work. It clicked for them. Well,
that's a good point. And so that's a credit to management and maybe to Maurice's coaching as well, that he found spots for guys and really had them define roles. I mean, I'm not saying you have to blow the Oilers team up, but there could be 4 or 5 players that need to be changed out to get a little quicker, to get a little younger, and to get a little sassier still.
I like the term sassy, and I agree with you. Okay, we have Mattias Ekholm. Reid, are you good to stick around for Ekholm and then give some other thoughts on the other side of Ekholm?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Mattias Ekholm. Yeah,
just what do you got, Hernan? Guy, it's really short, so it's under a minute.
That's fine.
Okay?
That's fine. Okay.
As it was last year, was there a different feeling? Kind of looks a little short again this year.
I don't really have had any time to digest that yet. It sucks. It's painful. It's not fun, and not obviously what we wanted. So I hard to answer that right now.
How do you think happening tonight's game makes you guys were able to generate some more and be a little more in it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't get to their goaltender enough either in Game 5 or Game 6. I mean, we weren't able to generate a goal in either of the first 40 minutes in either game. So it's hard to win games when that's the case. But I mean, give them credit; they're a good team. But I do think that there's another level to our game.
All right, not much there from Mattias Ekholm. Disappointment, desolation. Read anything that we could take from that?
I mean, what are they going to say? They know they got beat.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, they knew they weren't getting scoring chances, even when they had the puck. They know they weren't around the net. They're fully aware of what was happening on the ice. And I know when a game like this happens, a lot of people are fans are frustrated. Well, why aren't they trying? I think some guys probably got frustrated tonight. I know the panel was talking about that during the second intermission, but for the most part, most guys were trying really hard. They got beat. They got beat by a better, hotter, more polished team.
Let's go to Prairie Boy in Newfoundland. Says, I'm very heartbroken, Oilers fan here. They can't run the same team back next year if they want to compete differently, in parentheses, better in the Stanley Cup Final. Prairie Boy in Newfoundland with that one. Mark texting in says, this team doesn't want to get dirty, go in the tough areas, and Skinner isn't the answer. So disappointing. Team needs a wake-up call. That's from Mark. Matt Hyman out of Winnipeg says, I'd rather lose in the Cup Final than the second round. Chris Dixon texting says, the Oilers had 4 legit top 6 forwards. When Hyman was injured, they were left with 3. By the end of the series, it was 2.5. Florida was a wagon. Oil had no answer. I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
And Tommy, and I think Elliot Friedman said it in the intermission. Reid, maybe you heard this too. He said the difference is when you have Hyman, it's easier to go with 97 and 29 because you have Hyman on another line, right?
Yeah.
Because he's that impactful. When he's not there, it makes things a lot more difficult, right? So I thought that was a good assessment there by the panel and Elliot Friedman there, that how important Hyman. We all knew he was important, guys, but now we know how important he was to this team.
Well, and just like the ripple effect that it has on the lineup, I mean, Corey Perry had an outstanding playoffs, and this is a guy I want to talk about because, we're talking about next year a little bit, obviously. Corey Perry had an excellent playoffs. I'm going to start there. But he's old. He had a really good regular season, but he's old. He should not be starting Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final when your back's against the wall on your top line. He should be a secret weapon, a guy you use sporadically here and there, but he shouldn't be a go-to guy at this point in his career. It's a hell of a job by Corey Perry to rise like he did. And I will never, ever take away from Corey Perry for doing what he did this year, all year long, very consistent. But when it's a young man's game, that guy should be spotted in rather than relied upon. And with that Hyman injury, I think it exposed you. It was like Perry was starting the game on the 4th line in Game 5. And then they had to elevate him again. So, and I'm not taking anything away from Corey Perry, boys, but he shouldn't be your top line right winger. And that's where the Oilers were because Arvidsson couldn't do it. You're not putting Kappen in there. Hyman's injured. Brown was dinged up. Obviously, the Petrovic hit hurt him. It's just, and then it leads to the conversation, do you bring back Corey Perry? Because I think 95% of fans would. I like the idea of it, but I think you're going to have to find ways to make this lineup younger and still try to maintain a certain level of talent that keeps you in the hunt for a Stanley Cup. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do because I don't think any other team in the league wants to help you, to be honest with you.
No. And Tommy, I'm glad that's a great point. I didn't even think about it. Corey Perry scored 10 goals, the oldest player in Stanley Cup history.
Fantastic.
To have gold. But you're so right. If he's starting on your first line in the Stanley Cup Finals, that's an issue. And nothing. Corey Perry was fantastic all year long. Guys, in the regular season, 100%. He's probably the most consistent bottom 6 guy they had. In the playoffs, he came up big time after time. But you're right. He can't be on your top line.
I think that's part of the effect of Hyman going down. And then other guys getting nicked up, other guys, Kane with the stupid penalties and kind of taking himself out of the series. I think a lot of people described it that way. I mean, I just wanted to get that off my chest and mention it. But if the Oilers re-sign Corey Perry, you know what? I think he'll probably be a decent player next year again because he's just that smart.
Yeah.
Reid, any thoughts?
I wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back. Yeah, but they need to find players who can play above him so his ice time is limited and he can play in selective situations.
And it's not David Tomasek, for Christ's sake. I just want to say that.
Is that one of the European signings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like that still blows my mind.
I'm proud of you for remembering the names.
Thank you. It's forever etched in my mind. Let's get to a few more texts, and we'll get some final thoughts from Reid. It is Reid's Read, brought to you by Edmonton Garrison Memorial Golf and Curling Club. Let's go to Juan. Says, enough with the 97 and 29, keeping them happy, just win. You're seriously talking about Kapanen when 97 and 29 didn't show up. 97 and 29 showed they can't win. So Juan is all over McDavid and Draisaitl. Nozdrovia says, pathetic, disgusting. This franchise doesn't deserve the fans it has. Won't have them for much longer. 10 years to get McDavid a goaltender, and they elect to go with subpar trash. Cates deserves nothing, and in turn, the fans get the same. I'm sick with rage. Pathetic. Nozdrovia with that one. Jace says, thoughts on Tkachuk's comments. Quote, when you have a player that good and that talented, he's going to win one day, wherever it is. Unquote. Jay Woods. If that's what Tkachuk say, I think he's just doing that to stir the pot and piss you off.
Yeah.
Boys?
Yeah, he's a troll.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an excellent hockey player, but we also have seen his act. I mean, he wasn't interested in engaging with Kane until there was 2.5 minutes left in the clinching game. So
yes.
And apparently he was quite badly injured, like a muscle torn off the bone or something. I've seen on Twitter, but whatever.
Yeah. Matt at the Garrison says, I think the week-long break before the Stanley Cup Final hurt the Oilers. The Oilers were rolling since Game 3 of the LA series, and then momentum came to a halt. I think they would have been better off just continuing to play. Obviously, that was not up to them. Yeah, that's a league thing. Matt at the Garrison with that one. Jill texting in says, I can't believe it, truly. I guess credit to the Barf Panthers. They couldn't let this get back to Edmonton. They learned their lesson. And then Barry says, the big question is, will McDavid sign an extension this summer? Once that is answered, then you can figure out a plan. The answer to that is yes.
Yes, he will sign an extension.
Yeah. All right, Riedrich. It's been a long season. It's been a fun season. It's been an interesting season. Unfortunately, it ends in heartbreak again for the Edmonton Oilers and Oil Country in 6 games. Some final thoughts from you as we wind down 24-25.
Yeah, well, first of all, just quickly for me personally, just an honor to be at EST and cover my first season of Oilers hockey with you and Hernan and Cass and all the guys. And thanks for making a part for me on the postgame show. To Oilers fans, I wish this was a series that would have ended in celebration because you're great fans, and I know this is painful. I think there are going to be a lot of great memories of this season. There were a lot of comebacks and exciting plays in the regular season. And then you look at tying goals against LA and Leon's overtime goals. There were a lot of incredible highlights for this season. And I get there are some angry people.
Sure.
This was an awful loss tonight. Very painful. The Oilers weren't that competitive in terms of the game. You got to give the Panthers credit. They're trying really hard. And for people who are saying this team is embarrassing and they're a joke, I would just say stop talking tonight, sleep on it, maybe for a couple days, and reformulate your thoughts. They have been in the Stanley Cup Final 2 years in a row. This is a hell of a long way from where they were. Yes, we can pick apart holes in the roster, but it's a great era for Oilers hockey. They just remain a step away from it being an excellent era for Oilers hockey. And I'll talk to you at 3 o'clock tomorrow.
That's the final Reid's Read, brought to you by Edmonton Garrison Golf and curling club. Beautiful stuff, buddy. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for everything.
Bye, Reid.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Thanks, Hernan.
Oh boy! Thank you, Cal, and thank you, VR Montenegro.
Kisses.
Yes, kisses. Oh boy, there's about like 10 women in here I'd rather get a kiss from before those guys. I would have preferred that, to be honest with you. But it was nice. It came with love. Oh God, I love you guys too. Thank you. You can text us 780-218-9999. By the way, there's about 10 women in here, so obviously. Getting to the nasty chat. Let's get to the turning point of the game. Brought to you by Advantage Sport Medicine and Physiotherapy. Connor McDavid's got a team of specialists. You've got a bag of frozen peas. Get the same locker room approach that's trusted by the best in the game at Advantage Sport Medicine. Book your assessment today at www.advantagesportmed.ca or call 780-460-9977. Nanso, I don't want to say it was the first goal of the game because I thought that they could claw their way out of it. I do not want to say it was the second goal of the game, but the third one, where Stu Skinner played it very softly. And I think it sums up where he was at that point in the game. Maybe a little bit where the Oilers were at that point in the game. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the dagger. That was the final nail, whatever analogy you want to use for it.
That's when you knew
that third goal was good night, Irene. That is your Advantage Sport Medicine and turning point in the game. Yep.
Yeah, that was the Tom. I mean, that was the killer because you go into the second intermission down 2, you still have a shot, right? This team, like I said, scores in bunches, but that third one just is an absolute killer. So, spot on, man. That's a very bad goal.
Awful goal. That is your Advantage Sport Medicine turning point of the game. All right, we've been going for a while. We still got a bit to get to. Apparently, Stu Skinner was interesting. Do we have that, Hernan?
I have Coach. I can get Skinner.
You have Coach?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear from Kris Knoblauch following his team's loss tonight in the Stanley Cup Final. Fire away.
There's a difference in the series.
So many things have to go your way. In our first 3 series, things went our way. We got timely goals at certain times. Maybe a power play call or put us on the power play, whatever it is, or a timely save. I don't think any time during the series we were able to do that. And you look at even tonight, I thought we had a good start. We make a mistake, and now we're down 1-0. We had chances to score early. We didn't. Like the goal that we got at the end of the game obviously didn't mean anything, but they certainly felt like an opportunity to get a break like that earlier, and we never got those breaks. So, and it's tough. You got to play to get those breaks, but I just felt that a lot of times we just couldn't get that puck in the net.
Kris, Connor said earlier in the series that you didn't feel you'd played your best game, but it was coming. Leon said, I think it was today, that didn't feel like your best game had been there. Why do you think your team wasn't able to hit the high level that you're accustomed to, and how much of that had to do with Florida?
Yeah, credit to Florida. They're a fantastic team. They've got a lot of good players, and you look at how that roster is made up, and anytime we did get through it, their goalie played extremely well. We had our chances, but couldn't break, especially early in games. The scoring was very lopsided in the first period, and it was again tonight. But I didn't feel that the chances were skewed that heavily. That we had good starts and just couldn't get the puck through him. And if we get those through as the goalie, then it's probably a different type of game. But they got a great team, and like I said, anytime we were able to get some scoring chances, their goalie played extremely well throughout the whole series.
Left side, front row.
Kris, you guys led this series for like 33 minutes. The other guys for 250. Does it continually for 2 weeks looking up at a scoreboard that has you behind? How's that work psychologically on a team?
I don't know. It's each game, we're not taking notes about how much we're trailing, how much we're ahead. Because after each game, it's just comes down to winning and losing, and it makes it really hard when you don't have a lead to overcome a really good team and a really good team with a good goaltender. So, just fortunately or unfortunately, we just couldn't score those early goals.
Right.
Okay, so there's Kris Knoblauch. Messaging, I don't know. Not much to dig into there. The audio was bad, and that comes from whoever's running the board down in Florida. We apologize for that. With nothing we can do about it, but we thought it'd be good to hear from the head coach. I know some people, I saw it in the nasty chat while Knoblock was running there, saying goodbye, Kris, this and that. Listen, the guy went to 2 Stanley Cup Finals. Obviously, they're going to reevaluate everything, but I don't know how you fire a guy who's gone to 2 Stanley Cup Finals back-to-back years. Crazier things have happened. He got all the credit in the world up until the Stanley Cup Final. Even through the first 2 games, he was getting, this guy pushed the right buttons, this and that. It's interesting, and I'm not surprised anymore. This is my 17th season covering this team, to see the pendulum swing and the opinions just completely flop from one side to the other. For some, not all. I'd say a vocal minority, but it is interesting to see people turn on him tonight. And I think Reid said it best, like, hey, like maybe don't say stuff, because some people have said some pretty vicious and over-the-line stuff about him and other players, and sleep on it, maybe have another night to sleep on it, and then reassess and reevaluate what you want to say and how you want to look at it. But the guy's taken you to the Cup Final twice. The last guy to do that with the Oilers was Glenn Sather.
Yeah, and to bring in a coach, sure, a veteran guy, but like have they won? Do you know what I mean? Like I think it's an interesting conversation. I don't think it happens though. It's
right.
I truly don't. I don't think they're going to make a coach. If we learn nothing from the decade of darkness, Tom, the switching coaches every 2-3 years is not the answer.
Well, this would be another coach. That would be the third coach in what? Well, Tippett was still the coach in 2022, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, it was 3 years later. You want another coach? You want a fourth guy?
Mm-hmm.
When they just went. Yeah. Anyway, some people would say, yes, shut up, Tom. That's what we want. But I think that's silly. All right, let's hear from Stu Skinner. Apparently what he had to say, Jay Milton said, was interesting. Let's go inside the Oilers locker room again and hear from Stu Skinner.
In my opinion, I think it was just consistency. I think that was honestly it. They played a consistent game. They didn't change once through the whole series. I felt like our game was up and down a little bit here and there. And, I mean, that's how they play. They play that game all year, and it goes into playoffs, and they stick to it. They do the exact same thing every night. In our game, we weren't as consistent as they were.
Is there a sense that consistency kind of wore you guys down as the series went on?
Yeah, I think so, especially if bounces go a certain way. Like if you look at Game 2, second overtime, they score a goal. The next game, they're doing the exact same thing. They're not changing. And I think that's kind of when things shifted a little bit. I thought we kind of got away from the script, and momentum's a pretty big part in playoffs.
Are there lessons to be learned in that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure there's lessons. There's lessons as individuals, how you can show up better, how you can react better to certain situations. Also as a team, how we need to learn from this right away. We need to learn from this right now. Letting it happen 2 times in a row, is devastating.
Ripper was one of the first ones to give you a big...
Sorry, could you start over?
Was one of the first ones to give you a big end of the game. Was there any changing word between you and Kareem? How do you feel for him?
Yeah, he brought tears to my eyes, what he was saying, and I'm going to keep that for my heart.
What did you see on the third goal?
Yeah, I mean, it was a nothing shot. I tried to squeeze it in my arm, popped out. I mean, he shot it at the blocker side, which is smart, but yeah, I put it in the spot that I thought was going to be okay. Obviously wasn't for a second, and then he just shot it on the backside, and then Reinhardt's in a good spot. So goes from a nothing shot, but I mean, that's what you got to do. That's how goals go in, especially in the playoffs. You know, guys are just around the net, and I think for Florida, they did a great job at eliminating that.
This is a roller coaster season, a roller coaster playoff. What do you remember about this group?
I mean, about this group, a little bit of the same story as last year, just you can never count us out. I think with our group, it was even more so if once we got rolling, I think we were unbeatable. I think that's kind of the story for our team.
Was the belief the same after the first period that it was the previous game?
Yeah, for sure. We had some really good motivation to get going. I think, you know, that third goal a little bit later in the second period, I think that's kind of what killed us a bit, but we still had belief going into the third. Like, believe me, they scored the fourth, and we were at the bench, and we were like, hey, like, you're coming back out, you're coming back in the bench, like, we're going to do this. So I don't think for a moment we lost belief until obviously there's 5 minutes left of the game. It's 6-0 or whatever it was.
Well, Stu, you beat two really good teams in Vegas and Dallas, steamrolled. Is Florida just that much better, or did your team just not win?
I think Florida just played a consistent game. That's honestly the end of the story. Like, they played the same way every single night. Nothing changed for them, win or lose. Bobrovsky lets in 6 or 5. He's doing the same thing the next day. Their team isn't changing anything, and they just kept coming. And I thought we did that for the first 2 games, and then you know, we sort of just changed, and from there we were kind of having some peaks and valleys, and they were just good old Florida Panthers.
That's really felt like the tank was empty.
Sorry, I'll take yours.
Do you try and learn from that yourself as a goalie? Because Bob was in your shoes at one point. Do you kind of look at that and say, that's the trajectory I want to be on?
I sure hope so. I mean, it's my 3rd year in the league. He's 36, obviously, been playing for 14 years. You can tell because he is... Nothing changes for him. You know, you can tell mentally that he's in the same spot, whether he lets in 6 or he gets a shutout. You know, I couldn't tell a difference from game 1 to the last 2 minutes when he knew that he won the Stanley Cup. He didn't change for 1 second. I would love to get in touch with him and ask him how I could fill his shoes and how I could, you know, do that. Definitely hoping that that's my trajectory, but you know, that's going to have to come from me, my hard work.
Did you feel like you changed in the series? Back and forth?
My opinion, I think I showed up the same way. I thought results changed, as they always do. But I think for myself personally, I stayed pretty consistent. I was in my bubble. I was doing my own thing. It's weird being a goalie sometimes in a team sport because sometimes you feel like you're an individual in a team game.
Stu, your team led for 33 minutes in the series. The other guys led for 250 or something. Mentally, was it just difficult to just always be looking at the scoreboard and seeing that you weren't ahead?
Absolutely. For myself as well, after every first period, I let in 2 goals. And that's hard to take, especially when you got to play them 6 times. In my case, less, but yeah, when you play them consistently and they're just always ahead, I mean, it's a killer. You're always working to get ahead of them. You're always, you know.
Tom, I don't know what happened there with the audio.
That's okay.
Yeah.
No, that was good. That was good. That was Stuart Skinner. I'll get to that in a second. Okay, interesting things that he said there. Obviously, he says we weren't as consistent as they were. That's a duh, obviously. The way he handled the third goal, which ended up being the turning point of the game. Nothing shot. I couldn't squeeze it. Why didn't you catch it? I don't know. I mean, it's easy to pick it apart from over here, obviously. He talked about Bobrovsky, and he's hoping that that's his trajectory. You'll recall that Sergei Bobrovsky started with the Philadelphia Flyers, had some struggles in his first few years. It wasn't until he got to Columbus where his career really started to take off, and Stu did remind people there it was his third year. I did enough of that this year. I'm not going to keep harping on it. It was his third year. Now it's time for him to put on his big boy pants in the NHL, and I think he's accepting of that. That's just my assessment. And then he thought that he stayed consistent, Hernan. And in his approach. I think that's the important thing to say. He said he stayed in his bubble. He stayed consistent in his approach, his game, the results, all over the map, obviously. But
I found it interesting when he said sometimes it's weird being a goalie because you feel like an individual in a team sport.
Sure.
Right?
I get it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a fair thing to say.
Hey, kudos to him for standing there, and he took more questions than most of the other guys.
Yes.
And gives up thoughtful answers. You might not like him the way he plays, and you might want to move on from him, but I'll give him credit for standing there and taking all those questions, and he knows the amount of heat he takes in this city, so I'll give him kudos for that, Tommy.
All right. Well said. Well said. Let's go to the Damon Bunting Real Estate Player of the Game. Damon Bunting, consistent top-producing realtor in the greater Edmonton area for over 17 years. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. Check him out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. Hernan, the Latino Heat Salas, one last time in 24-25. Take it away, my friend.
Yeah, a lot of good options tonight. Tom, we got to go to the other team, obviously, the 5-1 win. Got to go with Sam Reinhart. I know 2 goals were empty netters, but 4 goals in an elimination game to win the cup is just outstanding. +4, 1 second off 21 minutes time on ice, 4 shots on net. He scored early and got the ball rolling on a great finish there on a blunder by Ekholm and Bouchard. Sam Reinhart, once again, is the Damon Bunting Player of the Game for the agency after scoring 4 goals.
Some big ones for Reinhart. Set the tone with this one. Tonight, that first one, great individual effort after a bad play by Ekholm, bad play by Bouchard. And then he finishes it off. Reinhart does. Your Conn Smythe winner is Sam Bennett. Have to admit, hats off to him. He was excellent all playoffs long and in the Stanley Cup Final.
Amazing.
That guy is a rat, and he's the best at it, and he's super effective. And I think all 32 teams. That boy going to get paid, and all 32 teams would love to have him on their roster. He is a hockey player's hockey player, Hernan, I would say.
Yeah, we'll see where he ends up or if he
player.
stays put.
Absolutely. All right, couple texts to wind things down, and then I'll say some final words. Hernan will say some final words, and we'll say goodnight. You guys have been awesome for the most part. There's been some bad ones, but we've kind of weeded those ones out. RBM texting in says, I'm devastated tonight myself, but I mean, why the Knoblock hate? The roster is the roster. He's got the cards laid out, how they're laid out, and how he makes the best decision. He makes the best way he can. Waddy in Cloverdale says, I blame Hernan for not singing La Bamba after every playoff win. Zacticum for jumping on the bandwagon and picking them to win the final after picking against them the previous rounds. And Dusty for hitting the road for the CFL while deserting the wig of Destiny and Tales of the North. This text says, Edmonton is a good team. We ran into a better team in the finals. Hearing a ton of nonsense all over social media. Social media is ripe with nonsense. Troll says, I like Skinner. I hope he doesn't end up becoming another Dubnyk. Dubnyk became a 3-time All-Star with the Minnesota Wild, by the way. And then Troll says, thanks for all you guys did this year. Result, but great radio. Thank you. It is it's a new style of radio station, and we're glad people have actually caught on. Absolutely tremendous. Thank you, Troll. Looney Land says, don't tell Dusty, but when he did, I'm not going to, okay, I won't get into that, Looney Land. Atif text again. Greg the Sound Guy. Let's go to Greg the Sound Guy. Love you guys. Great job this year. Holy man, whoever is in charge of Knob's presser is bombed. I've heard less feedback pointing a mic at a monitor.
It's terrible, man.
Yeah, that was so bad. I said to her, I'm like, we might have to cut this one because whoever's working the board in Florida is doing a crap job. All right. Nanso, I'll give the floor to you. Some final thoughts.
Yeah, tough night, of course, back-to-back years now. But like I said, embrace it. It was a beautiful run, man. We had so much fun with EST covering it and being on location and the nasty chat and the inbox. It was great. And listen, I know Tkachuk is a troll, but I do think this team is close to winning, and they will win before it's all said and done. So hang in there. We got a short off season, Tom. Draft's just around the corner, then free agency. Yeah. We'll see what the Oilers do. Keep the faith and keep tuning into EST. Of course, we'll have you covered all summer long. Everything NHL, all sports. And Tom, long season, man. It's been a ride. It was fun. Great always working with you and Cass and Reid and Kwok and Belzy. Everybody who chimed in on the pre and post game show has been absolutely fantastic. Just a sad way to end it, Tommy, but I'm glad I was along for the ride. And Tommy, great stuff. Great being back this year with the pre and post. And we keep rolling, buddy. We keep on rolling. Keep the faith. And Tommy, enjoy your evenings for the rest of the summer, my friend. You've earned it.
I'm looking forward. Thank you. I get to enjoy Thursday night at Commonwealth Stadium, and I hope to see a lot of nasties there. I know we will in the tailgate. We had great conversations with the Alouettes and the Elks today, and I'm really looking forward to Thursday. Dusty, obviously, is going to be super busy with football. Nanso, you're going to be busy with EST afternoons. Our station continues to grow, and we can't thank our audience enough. You guys have been tremendous, spreading the love and the support and telling your friends about it. We've put zero money into marketing, and this thing is growing into a phenomenal, well-oiled machine. We've got a lot of great surprises for our audience coming up. We're going to put on a lot of great parties this summer. We're going to be at the tailgate parties all football season long, and then you can catch J-Mill, Matty Owanek on the Green and Gold kickoff and post-game show. So much good stuff here on EST. Nanso, I want to say thank you to the Nasties. You got Cal in the park. You got Vera Montenegro, Grumpy Cat. Sarah's still here. It's Sarah's birthday tomorrow, so happy birthday to Sarah. They've made all these on locations so much fun, and they've kept me company. There's some quiet nights in the middle of winter, and VR would be here. Cal and Sarah would be here. Rip City Step, who's right here. Come say hi, Rip City. Get over here. Oh, he's too shy. Come say hi. He doesn't want to. Don't kiss me. No, too many kisses for Tom tonight. But this is awesome. We have a great community, and after year two, we know we've done the right thing, and it's only going to get bigger and better, and we promise you that. I want to say thank you to GCL Diesel. I want to say thank you to Hudson's. I want to say thank you to Boston Pizza Westgate. I want to say thank you to Patty, Tian, and the staff at the Ice House. So much fun. Thank you for letting us add and be a part of your parties. Tremendous. Super times, all playoffs long and during the regular season as well. Nanso, last year on the sidelines was when I found out you were coming back.
Yeah.
That was a day of days for me, and it's been great to have you back. You've been awesome, just like old times. Got the band back together with Cass. He was great. Yeah, man, this is super fun. We're going to keep it going. One day, I think we're going to be talking about an Edmonton Oilers Stanley Cup win.
Yes.
These last two have been tough, but you know what? A lot of good stuff ahead here in Edmonton. It's not just about the Oilers. I know they're a monster part of the sporting landscape, but we roll on. What a year it's been. To all of our sponsors, GCL Diesel, Play Alberta, Advanced Sport Medicine, Physiotherapy, Edmonton Garrison Memorial Golf and Curling Club, and South Fort Chev, Damon Bunting Real Estate. You guys are awesome. You guys help make this happen. To everybody out there watching and listening, thank you all year long. Fantastic. Welcome if you're new to the station. We're going to be here for you all summer long. That's going to do it for 24-25. The Edmonton Oilers fall in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final to the Florida Panthers. Maybe we're doing this next time, next year, except it's the Oilers lifting the cup over their heads in this city, partying like it's 1990 all over again. I would like that very much. For Hernan, Salas, Matt Cassian, and Reid Wilkins, I'm Tom Gazzola saying thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.